Welcome to RetroLogic, episode 63. I'm Dan Caparello here with Sam Wagers and very special guest Eric from the All In, a Nintendo podcast. No John tonight, guys. Unfortunately, we just give John all the grace in the world. Just has some family stuff going on. Nothing too serious, but just keep him in your thoughts and prayers. But we're not here to talk about John. We're here to talk about retro games. And Eric, you're here joining us tonight. How's it going?
Yes, it's going well. How about yourself? Good to be here. This is actually, no joke, for realsies, my first podcast guest spot.
That's right. Your first. Wait, of any podcast?
Yeah.
What?
That's hard to believe.
All in a Nintendo podcast. We are dropping episode 81 in just a few days.
Wow.
And this is actually my first podcast guest spot. Just goes to show you how insane of a schedule that I typically keep.
Well, it's your first guest spot, and it's our last episode of the year because next week, listener, you'll be hearing the GOTY 30 episode where we break down every great game in 1991. With all 5 of the RetroLogic hosts. I'm talking Dan, I'm talking Sam, I'm talking John, I'm talking Adam, and I'm talking Liam. All on the same podcast, hashing it out about video games. And Sam and you and I get into it a little bit. You and I kind of
a little bit.
Yeah, well, no spoilers. We'll have to just wait for everyone to listen to it. But Eric, before we get too far, why don't you tell everybody about All In, what it is, and where they can listen. Go for it. Plug yourself.
Yeah, we are All In, a Nintendo podcast, the weekly Nintendo variety show where each and every Saturday, no shell is left unturned, no point is left unearned. Seth typically gets to say that, so I'm happy to finally be able to say that myself. Seth, you may remember, if you are a longtime follower of RetroLogic, Seth has appeared a couple times on this show, I believe.
Yeah.
Good friends with Seth.
I think twice. I want to say twice or 3 times so far, but yeah, you guys and RetroLogic, we're sister podcasts at this point. We're good friends, so we definitely need to have more Eric on the show, though. We got to balance that out.
I agree. I'm a endless well of gaming knowledge, according to one of our 5-star reviews. So hopefully I can spread the good graces, the good word of Nintendo. Well, the mostly good word of Nintendo around. But yeah, very happy to be here. Very happy to be guest spotting. And if you would love to check out more gaming podcast goodness, do please check out All In a Nintendo podcast. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter at All In, all letter N podcast. You can follow the podcast itself over on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Podchaser. We have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/allinpodcast. We're doing a lot more stuff on Twitch now at twitch.tv/allinpodcast. We have a lot of stuff going on. Seth just released his very first video essay on the top 5 soundtracks of 2021. Definitely go check that out.
That was a
on
great
the YouTube
video.
channel.
Definitely go check that out.
He did a very good job. Seth, obviously, incredibly passionate about video game music. He's certainly got his areas of expertise. I've certainly got my areas of expertise, and we certainly make a great podcasting duo. Although, don't take my word for it. Do please go check out the show and let us know what you think.
I had a flashback just then of reading Rainbow. Don't take my word for it. But down.
I've actually met LeVar Burton. He's amazing.
Well, that's awesome. So our housekeeping was a GOTY 30 reminder, but I just told you about it, so no worries. Definitely go over and check out All In on all the things, and give those guys a 5-star review if you have that ability somewhere. I think Spotify just dropped a review system. So even if you did give them a 5-star review, go do it again on Spotify because it always helps.
Please, yes.
So,
and I think you have to listen to at least 10 minutes of a podcast, so you can't just like review bomb it.
Well, that's refreshing. I like that. Well, we're going to review bomb it up. So
that would be nice.
Yeah, let's do that. So let's jump into our icebreaker, you guys. And Eric, we'll start with you since you're our guest. What did you buy this week? What did you play this week?
Oh, I've actually got 3 things to shout out in that regard. As a matter of fact, this past week in the world of Nintendo, if you follow the world of Nintendo, you are probably very familiar with the fact that we just had a pretty amazing Indie World Showcase this past week. A few games shadow dropped from that, a few indie games that Seth and I have been looking forward to for quite some time, including a game that we had actually been very publicly practically begging the game's developer to bring to the Nintendo Switch. Our very first ever guest on episode 1 of All In was Greg Lobanov, the developer of Wandersong, and his brand new game Chicory from this past year was blowing it up over on PlayStation and Steam. And all year, even in Seth's video essay that I just mentioned, we were begging Greg to bring Chicory over to the Nintendo Switch. And sure enough, not only was it announced, but it was shadow dropped this past week on Nintendo's hybrid platform. And I could not buy that fast enough. So that's what I've been playing for the most part for the past 6 or so days. And if you are unfamiliar with Chicory, essentially what it is, imagine a coloring book made into a Zelda-like. That is essentially what
pretty good.
Is. Yeah. So imagine the old days of Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past and all those top-down Zelda-like games, essentially turning that into a really interesting coloring book. Very much like Splatoon or Okami or Epic Mickey, the entire thing centers around a character wielding a magical brush, and color is a major aspect of it. Essentially, just the entire world is your canvas. And gearing up for our own Game of the Year discussions, our own Game of the Year 2021 discussions coming in just a couple weeks. That was a game we definitely knew we had to check out before the end of the year. Thank you so much, Greg, for bringing that to the Nintendo Switch. I could not be happier with Chicory, and hopefully we'll get to talk a lot more about that on the podcast in the near future. In terms of stuff that I picked up, not retro necessarily. I don't have
it doesn't have
too many retro. I am the very proud owner of a CIB, Ocarina of Time, never played. But my retro collection isn't too massive. But I was able to pick up 5 games on the Nintendo Switch, 5 physical copies that of indie games mostly indie games that I've been looking forward to. A really interesting time-based, turn-based RPG called Chris Tales that came out back in July. That's got some really interesting time-bending mechanics baked into the combat there. Really looking forward to finally checking that out. They re-released the Disney Classics game collection, that collection they released with the Lion King and Aladdin. They added the Jungle Book to it and re-released the physical version of that game with all the different games included. So I definitely had to check that one out.
I actually did a review for that for the Nintendo Dads.
Yeah, you really liked the Jungle Book, didn't you?
So, man, honestly, shocked at how good that game was compared to. And I mean, part of it is that like the Lion King is fine, but I played like an hour of that, and then I played Jungle Book, and I was like, whoa, okay, like this one's actually fun. I get it, it's playable.
It's not famously difficult. They weren't just trying to keep you re-renting the game.
Yeah, and then I was pleasantly surprised when I found a copy of it for the Sega Genesis in my collection. I didn't even know I had.
Yeah, very happy to pick that up. I picked up a game that Seth and I did in what we call our Indie Showcase. We did one last year called Sayonara Wild Hearts, which is essentially like a playable pop album. It's definitely worth checking out, but there aren't too many physical copies of that floating around. I was very happy to be able to pick that one up.
Nice.
Was able to pick up a physical copy of a little beat 'em up called Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Nice.
Very happy to have that physical. And last but not least, I was able to pick up the physical version of Hades from Supergiant Games, the now Hugo award-winning Hades. Congratulations on that win, Supergiant. As if you didn't have enough room taken up on your trophy shelf at this point.
Well deserved though.
Yeah, very well deserved.
Yeah.
But the very last thing I'm going to shout out in this regard is our our indie showcase for this week. We haven't even officially announced it yet. We will be posting about it later today.
Ooh,
but our indie showcase for Christmas.
Are we scooping this right now?
Announcement. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. The indie showcase, our Christmas indie showcase this week is going to be Cthulhu Saves Christmas.
Wow. Nice.
And I don't know if you guys have checked this one out, but it's an experience. I'll tell you that. Seth and I are certainly going to talk about it much more this Saturday. We release episodes of All In every Saturday, including this coming Saturday. Yes, even on Christmas. So have something nice for you to listen to aside from White Christmas for the 50 billionth time.
Cthulhu Saves Christmas. Have you played this? Have you played Cthulhu?
I have.
Okay. It's like a top-down... Is it action or turn-based?
It's a turn-based RPG, very reminiscent of stuff like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy, like the old Final Fantasy 16-bit era, stuff like Sacred Oasis and Breath of Fire, and a lot of those old, top-down RPGs. But it's certainly got a lot more to talk about outside of that. Definitely check out our indie showcase this Saturday on All In Podcast. It's definitely a game. It's definitely a game. I'll tell you that.
I always find it fascinating how Cthulhu's become just like this ubiquitous character in culture now. But like, he's supposed to be like an unknowable god that you look at and turn to stone, like, and just isn't
this eldritch horror that most people have turned into a plush mascot.
And so, now he's like,
he's not even that big a deal within that mythos. Really.
I guess that's
other
true.
Weird thing.
I guess that's true. He's not even I don't even know how he became like the H.P. Lovecraft like mascot, and like, how is Cthulhu able to be in whatever people want him to be in? Are they licensing Cthulhu? Is there an H.P. Lovecraft like trust that they're licensing him from?
I don't know if they're claiming like religious,
people got to
like
know.
The way you could have.
It's probably one of those Herlock Sholmes things.
Well, like it's the Cthulhu. Like the name is there. I don't know. Inquiring minds got to know, but this is not the podcast for that. We'll have to move on for now. But
I can vouch for the fact that at the end of the game, there was certainly no disclaimer that said, any reference or any similarity to actual eldritch gods, is unintentional.
You don't want to make that.
I didn't see any disclaimer like that.
Yeah.
So,
awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, Eric. Sam, tell us, man.
So Eric mentioned Okami earlier, and I just bought Okami today because I noticed it was $10 on the Switch eShop.
Sweet.
So I picked up Okami HD. Haven't been really buying a whole lot this month just because of Christmas shopping and other causes money's going to. But that's pretty much my pickup for the week. And then as for what I've been playing, also not too much, but I'm still plugging away at Battle Network. Been streaming most of that. So on my way to beating Iceman.
Sweet.
Not quite halfway through the game yet, but making good progress. It is kind of interesting going back to the first Battle Network because I haven't replayed it nearly as many times as 2 and 3 in particular. But it's still fun. It's still Battle Network. It's a formula that was definitely a breath of fresh air at the time and definitely not a breath of fresh air by the 6th game within 4 years.
Oh, man. I remember the first one and really liking it. But
it still holds up. The series did definitely improve, but it definitely got stale fast. And the rate at which they pumped them out did not help things.
Weird.
Was that
I want it back by now. That was not Inti Creates did the Zero series, which was also coming out around the same time. Yeah. There were like 19 Mega Man games that came out in 5 years. It's ridiculous.
I'm well aware. I was there. I sold many of them back in the day.
Yeah.
But I couldn't remember. Inti Creates, God, I love them. They're still doing a lot of good stuff with Luminous Avenger and the whole Gunvolt thing. But I couldn't remember. I knew they were doing the Zero series. I knew they did the ZX franchise. I just couldn't remember if they were also part of the Battle Network and like the Star Force stuff.
Awesome. Is that all, Sam?
And I've also been playing some Henry Hatsworth, which, interestingly enough, just came up in the T-Logic We have a T-Logic channel in Discord now.
We do
it's a real
now.
thing.
If you like tea,
And,
I have a
put some
Discord
Henry
channel for
Hatsworth
you. Yeah.
images in there.
Is that Seth's fault, by the way? Because he actually used to do a podcast called Tea and Honey with his wife. So is that Seth's doing?
Listen, it's everybody's fault. Okay. I think I had Seth on one time, and he and Sam and John were all drinking tea. And then I was like, okay, welcome to Tea Logic. And then it just became its own
like
thing.
the dinosaur.
Listen,
right?
I have
It's
no
just a running
control.
gag.
I have no control anymore. I just let things happen in the community, and they take it from there. So here we
This is
are.
how
I don't drink tea.
happened.
So I do drink yerba mate.
Plocktober.
Yeah.
You know what? At this point, if I get the ability to play Plock, I'll sit down and I'll do it just for you guys.
Hey, be careful what you wish for. That's all I got to say.
I mean, as of now, as soon as this episode goes live, like 3 people are going to ship you Plock for the Super Nintendo.
That's how it goes.
You know what?
Do you have a
I'm
working
down.
Super Nintendo?
I do not have a working Super Nintendo.
right.
I do have a down here. I just moved down here to Florida a few months ago, and I was able to locate a pretty decent little retro video game store. I can't remember what it was called, but I'm sure they've got a couple Retrons if they don't actually have a Super Nintendo proper. But I would certainly like to go back and get some of those old consoles. I've mostly been focusing on a lot of the new stuff because the podcast that Seth and I do takes up just so much of my time. Just the games on the Nintendo Switch that Seth and I want to check out, we rarely have time for. But I would really like the ability to go back and check out a lot of those, relive my youth, my childhood, back before I'd lost all my hair.
Just be careful. Be careful how long you hang out in the RetroLogic Discord server, because we have a tendency to suck people into a hobby that they didn't sign up for. So, awesome. Thank you, Sam. I will skip. John has his list here, but I will let him tell you about the haul, and I'll go move on and tell you about my pickups this week. So this week I went to my local. They were having like 20% off Xbox games or something. Just rounding out the necessary Xbox 360 games. We're talking Kameo, a Rare developed platformer that was supposed to come out on the N64.
That game doesn't get talked about enough.
Oh man, I remember playing that demo all the time when I worked at Game Crazy and I was supposed to be working. I loved it, man. It was really well done. Like, I don't know why it didn't get the praise. Probably because it was on the Xbox 360 and it drowned. But it wasn't a launch title too. Like, there wasn't that much going on.
Yeah, it was close to a launch title. The only thing about Kameo is they try to do like some kind of score attack thing with it. I was like, just be a 3D Zelda clone. You're an amazing 3D Zelda clone. Just drop the score attack thing.
Yeah. But the other game that I picked up, which is criminally cheap right now, is Silicon Knights' last game, Too Human. Was it their last game? I might be misquoting that, but it certainly was a game that took. It was also supposed to be it was supposed to be a PlayStation game, and then they partnered with Nintendo to do Eternal Darkness, and it was supposed to be a GameCube game, and then they got picked up by Microsoft, and they released it on Microsoft, and then they went out of business. And the game doesn't get a good rap, but I wanted to give it a try because it's the kind of thing that like was hyped back when I was playing video games, and we just never got around to, it's just kept. It was the Duke Nukem Forever of my generation. So, I picked it up because it was $5, like at a retro game store, not a cheap, like that's the going rate for it. So, there it is.
That's kind of amazing that game's only $5, considering that all copies of the game were ordered, found, and destroyed.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know how many physical copies are left, but that kind of blows my mind that it's only $5, because that was the whole thing with Too Human was, the legal fallout from them, I guess, misappropriating the Unreal Engine. Mm-hmm. So they wound up having to pay out this big settlement to Epic, and part of the settlement was they actually had to physically gather as many copies of the game as they could and destroy them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was part of the actual settlement, is they ordered Silicon Knights to recall as many copies of the game as they possibly could and destroy them. So the fact that there's still a few running around is kind of amazing.
I think part of it, there's two things happening there. One of them is that Xbox 360 games compared to games of that same generation are absolutely in the dumpster price-wise. If you want a console to collect for, Xbox 360 will have you there. Well, you'll have like a great selection of games without like breaking the bank at all. Also, like the game gets a really bad rap. Like the reviews are terrible, and it may have just been review bombed. I'm not really sure. I've never played it, but it's not something that most people care about. You know, like so. Yeah, I think that's my assessment. I'll have to play it and get a better assessment of it. I got a box for Super Mario Strikers for the GameCube. Just been on the hunt for that game. It's really expensive now. Got a box for it and cover art and a manual. So just need to, complete the old Strikers.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I got to get the game in there now. But usually the discs are pretty cheap, and I wouldn't have minded buying one disc only anyway, but now the fact that I get to put it in a box is nice. My Nintendo Power issue 50 came in, which is the Link's Awakening issue, which is actually a pretty beefy issue. It's got a whole, like, a poster of every Nintendo Power issue up until that point, all 50 of them. It has, obviously, the Link's Awakening walkthrough up to the 3rd dungeon. It's got like a 9-page Star Fox comic book, which is awesome, and Bubsy. So,
classic!
Yeah,
absolute classic.
Got to have Bubsy in there. Also, the cover's a nice like faux gold looking thing with the owl on it. It's a beautiful issue. So, and it's one of the more expensive ones at $20 on price charting. I got it for $14 on an auction, so I felt good about that. And then so played this week, I've just been still digging into Archvale. Not a lot of time to play these days, but sometimes my son, who's 6, and I will just have some, I call it man cave time. So he'll just come in and I'll let him pick out a game and play or whatever within reason. He saw Lego Star Wars for the GameCube and he was like, oh, Lego and Star Wars? I was like, oh yeah. I'm like just introducing him to stuff, right? And so he popped it into the GameCube and disc read error. And I look at the disc. I don't even know where I got this game. Like I probably had this game from like when I first started collecting 2-3 years ago. I look at the disc and it's just scratched. It's just all messed up. There's no way this thing's gonna read. I tried again, doesn't work. He's like devastated, guys. He's like, oh, like man, Lego Star Wars. Like I know, dude. I'm sorry. I don't have any other copies of a Lego Star Wars game, and they would be so good for him too because it's a simple game, easy to get through. He just started being able to play Mario for the first time. Like he's like. Yeah, just like the whole like connecting the brain to the fingers to the right button on a screen has been like difficult for him, but he's finally getting it. So I let him start a file of SteamWorld Dig because I won't let him play Minecraft anymore and there's mining in it. So it's like, here, try this. And he loves it, man. He loved it. Like and that's not an uncomplicated game. That's a pretty like there's a lot of like platforming and dexterity and like discovery necessary and like exploration necessary to play that game, but he's absolutely into it. So I think that's pretty cool. Shout out to SteamWorld Dig developer Thunderful, who just launched the Gunk, which is looks really, really great. But yeah,
Thunderful making some big moves.
Yeah, man. I'm really excited to see what else they do because they really seem to be kind of firing on all cylinders now and making some great stuff. SteamWorld Quest was my favorite game that year. Indie game. Anyway, that was my week. Why do you guys say we play some Prices Retro?
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm down. This is my first time actually playing, so I'm excited.
Let's do it. this is your first time playing Price is Retro, like Eric, here's how we play. I'm going to list off 4 or 5 games, and you're going to guess how much the games are worth in total, dollars and cents. Whoever of all of us is the closest to the actual price wins that lot. Everyone has a list, and everybody else guesses. And there's also the Poltergeist, who guesses 300 on every time. Sometimes the Poltergeist doesn't work, depending on who's running the spreadsheet, so we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, so I'm going to go first this time. And Sam, are you prepped with the spreadsheet?
Just give me a minute.
All right, we'll give Sam a minute. In the meantime, I've got kind of a fun thing. In this issue of Nintendo Power were some jokes. They're Legend of Zelda theme, and I'm going to see if you guys can get these punchlines. Are you ready, Eric?
Oh, God.
Here we go.
Okay.
How did Link win the basketball game for his team?
Okay, it's a hookshot joke, isn't it?
He used his hook shot. Yeah, yes, he did. That's good. That's good. Okay, here we go. What did Zelda tell Link when he couldn't unlock the door?
When he couldn't unlock the door?
What did Zelda tell Link when he couldn't unlock the door? She said,
what?
Triforce.
Sam, you almost done with that spreadsheet?
Triforce. Wait, no, I have one more.
Okay.
What did Link say to Ganon when he captured Zelda?
What did Link say to Ganon when he captured Zelda?
Yeah, this one's a little obtuse. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
Leave her alone. Like lever, like lever. That one was not good. I think Triforce was the best one of these 3. I'm going to say
Triforce was okay.
Yeah.
Triforce was okay.
Triforce. The way you say it matters. Sam, how we doing? What?
I'm ready.
You're ready. Great.
Hey.
Awesome.
At least I think I am.
Well, we'll see how it goes, and if we got to rely on Flightsy for the score, then I'm sure he'll appreciate that. So I'm going to go first. Here is my list. So my first game is Ghostbusters, the video game for the Wii, complete in box. Star Wars, The Force Unleashed 2 for the Wii, complete in box. Mushroom Men, Rise of the Fungi for the Nintendo DS, complete in box. And Mushroom Men, The Spore Wars for the Wii, complete in box. And whoever has a number, you just shout that thing out when you have it.
I'm going to go $85.
Okay.
I got 65.
All right, 85 and 65. Actual retail value is $37.65. And I'll give you each individual price here. We've got Ghostbusters, the video game for the Wii, is $9.41. Force Unleashed 2 is $8.16. Mushroom Men Rise of the Fungi is $8.72. And Mushroom Men Spore Wars was $11.36. And the theme is actually all of these games were developed by an Austin-based studio that no longer exists called Redfly Studio. They went out of business in 2016. And a fun story about that is that one of the developers came into a game over video games when I was working there and got him to sign a copy of the Ghostbusters game. So I don't know where that is now. Probably gone with all the collection that I used to have. But yeah, they were really cool. They did they were kind of a port house, and then they did the Mushroom Men series, and it did not sell well, and that kind of did them out. They went out of business in 2016, and they were at the time working on a game called Lords of the Sith for the Wii, which was canceled, which is sad because that sounds really cool. So, Sam, you won that one, but both of you guys are pretty close. Both of you guys knew that Wii games are kind of in the basement right now. Mm-hmm. Were either of you familiar with the Mushroom Men games?
Oh, yeah.
Not at all?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Oh, you are, Eric?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. That's,
That's
surprising.
the console games were kind of like tactics based a little bit, right?
No, the console game was like a Zelda action adventure.
Okay.
With crafting and stuff. It's actually a really sophisticated and cool game. Had kind of a weird control scheme because they did like a camera with the D-pad, and that didn't really work super well. But I actually really enjoyed them. I think Spore Wars was a side scroller. Fungi, Rise of the Fungi for the DS was a side scroller. But anyway, Sam, there's a weird game you need to check out.
Yeah. They tried a couple different genres with that franchise.
Eric, why don't you go next?
Okay, fair enough. I'm sure the theme of mine will become very apparent very quickly. All of mine are going to be loose.
Okay.
So, the first one is A Christmas Carol featuring Jim Carrey for the Nintendo DS.
Oh, boy.
The beat-em-up Batman Returns for the Super Nintendo.
Batman Returns.
Top-down Contra-style shooter Die Hard for the NES. And Home Alone 2 Lost in New York for the Game Boy.
Is it something more sophisticated than movie games?
They're all Christmas-based movie games released on Nintendo consoles.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. What was the second one?
Batman Returns for the Super Nintendo. A lot of people don't remember Batman Returns was actually set in Christmas.
Yeah, that's the one that threw me off, I think. Like, I was following.
And of course,
Die
Hard's a Christmas movie.
Obviously.
Of course, everybody
knew. Okay, so my guess here is 70. Straight 70.
I'm going to guess 110.
The vast majority of it comes from Die Hard, but total they are $242.70.
Whoa.
Like I said, the vast majority of it comes from Die Hard, A Christmas Carol, the weirdly animated Jim Carrey movie and done in the style of a Polar Express. Loose for the Nintendo DS is just $442. Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, loose for the Game Boy is just $674. Batman Returns, loose for the Super Nintendo is just $24.22. However, if you can find a copy of Die Hard on the NES, even loose, that is $207.
Man, I always get that and Total Recall confused because one is very cheap and one is very expensive. Like, golly.
Yeah, so about 80-90% of that just came from Die Hard. But I had to keep the theme.
I am shamed. I'm embarrassed. Wow. That's a good list.
What was that total again?
$242.70.
Cool. All right. Sam, whenever you are ready, why don't you hit us with your best shot? Fire away.
All right. I have to apologize for this list ahead of time.
Oh, my God.
I might have placed some rules.
What did you do?
I did. I did the first word of the next game starts with the last word of the previous game thing again.
Yeah.
And in order to fill in those gaps, I used some non-North American releases. These are games that just didn't come out anywhere else. Just be aware of that. I usually try to avoid those. But first we have Banana for the Famicom, complete in box. Followed by Banana Prince for the NES PAL version.
Classic game, of course.
Loose. Yeah, this is actually a game that weirdly enough came out only in Japan and Germany. Nowhere else in Europe, just Germany.
It's called Banana Man?
Banana Prince.
Banana Prince, okay. That's
loose.
That's not weirder.
For the NES. Then we have Prince of Persia, Rival Swords for the PSP, complete. And Swords for the Wii, complete.
Just Swords.
Where did Swords?
I started and ended on a one-word title.
Is that Oh my God. Is that
Swords for the Wii.
North America game? Swords?
Yes, it is.
All right. Okay, Sam. I guess we all went, well, except for you, Eric. Actually, I don't even know what yours is worth yet, Sam. I'm guessing $80 for Sam's list.
They're so bizarre and obscure. Like, I've got to imagine they're worth something. So I'm just going to go 250.
And he's putting in the numbers.
80 and 250.
That's right.
The total is $144.72. $144.72.
We kind of
Well, Banana just sounds like a valuable game, clearly.
Yes, but at the same time, it's a Famicom game.
yeah, that's
And usually
my thing.
those are a pretty, because the market's just kind of saturated there for whatever reason. So it's 1036 complete in box. Banana Prince is definitely the most expensive on the list at $115.55.
Man, I had a hunch.
And that's loose too. The complete, it's like 180 something. Prince of Persia: Rival Swords for the PSP, 1032, and Swords for the Wii, 849.
Man, I had a hunch about
You're better
Banana
off buying
Prince.
an actual sword.
Yeah. Not for $10 though. $5.
No.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. So we don't have any other Prices Retro lists from the community. So let's see if we can get a score for what we got there, Sam.
I do not have the total column is not populating here, but I believe I won
Okay.
just from mental math there.
Yeah. Good deal. All right. Well, Sam, congrats. Good deal, man. Eric, better luck next time. You know, we'll have you on again. You can try your luck.
Wah, wah.
Pricing games is tough, man. Even, you know, and I do it on the daily and I still get it wrong. So we have 2 guest lists for the Spot the Fake game. So let's jump into old Discord here and pull those up. Okay, first we have the Ambassador, aka Fight Crab Fanatic, who likes to give us Spot the Fakes. And here we go. So the first game is called Pissed, P-Y-S-T. Second game is DLC, the game. Third game is Board of the Rings. And fourth game is Pyrim.
Now, this is very important. Is Board of the Rings spelled B-O-R-E-D or B-O-A-R-D?
B-O-R-E-D.
Okay.
Like I'm feeling bored of the rings. Now, all of these are real except for one. Guys, so what you have to pick the fake one. Where are y'all leaning?
Well, I'm going to guess pissed because if it's not right, then at least, you know, it's an apt descriptor of my feelings.
Very true. I'm also going to go pissed because it's the one that's kind of like, yeah, I get it.
These all just sound like bargain basement dollar store app, you know, iOS apps.
Yeah,
What was the second one again?
Okay, I'll read them all off. Pissed, DLC the game, Board of the Rings, Pyrim. This is a great list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to say Pyrim, but like, that's just, I don't know. It's like too dumb not to be real.
Right. All right. Final answer?
I'm going with Pyrim.
Go with
Why
Pyrim.
not?
Okay. The fake game is Pyrim.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Now I got to look up what system
Called the bluff.
PYST is for.
That sounds like an NES game.
Computer game. It is. It's a computer game.
Reminds me of Scat.
It's very much a parody of Myst, like down to the cover art.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah,
that
big
doesn't
time.
surprise me at all.
And there's FMV and everything. Hilarious. All right.
Of course, there's FMV because it was an early 90s knockoff.
Good old Ambassador also has another list for us, but this one is Spot the Real. So all of these games are fake except for one, and we have to discover which one it is. Here are the games. Michael Hansen Handball 2018, Airbud Touchdown and Tails, Diabolical Pitch, Tony Hawk's Grindhouse, Satan versus Angels Basketball. Which one of these is real, guys?
I honestly think it's the handball one. I think I've actually seen that.
Michael Hansen's Handball 2018?
Yeah, I honestly think I've seen that.
3 years ago? Wow.
Yeah. They were still releasing Wii games in 2020.
Which one, Sam?
The handball.
I'm going Airbud. Airbud Touchdown.
Airbud and Tails?
Yeah. Because it's like, I don't know.
I feel like they might as well have called it Airbud and Knuckles.
Oh, I was thinking like Dog Tails. I was thinking like Sonic the Hedgehog. That's funny, though. All right, so the answer is Diabolical Pitch. Okay. Diabolical Pitch is a real game, guys, and now I'm going to look it up. Diabolical Pitch.
I really feel like I've seen a handball game, though.
Is a baseball action video game from Grasshopper, Xbox 360 Connect. Oh my gosh. Is this even
Connect game?
Is this
From
even
Grasshopper?
Yeah, came to North America. Hold on.
Grasshopper as in Suda 51?
That's right. Let's price chart this guy. Hang on. Diabolical Pitch. Was it digital only? It might have been digital only. Because I'm not seeing it anywhere on
How
eBay.
diabolic.
Yeah, right. It's digital only, but still, like, wow. Okay. Diabolical Pitch, guys. So we did our Zelda jokes. If you want to submit a list for Prices Retro, hit me up, DM me, let me know you have a list for me, and I will give you instructions on how to deliver, because it has to be done in a very specific way so that it's not spoiled for me. Also, on RetroLogic.games, the website, there is now a Prices Retro database where you can see every game we played in Season 1 and go over all the stats and who won, who had the most expensive game, least expensive game, the weirdest game, all kinds of stuff in there. Go check that out at RetroLogic.games in the RetroLogic podcast section of the website. So,
Yes.
let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll hit our show topic, which this week is we're going to just talk about being gaming content creators and what that's like and how to get started. Welcome back to RetroLogic. With us today again is Eric from the All N Nintendo podcast. We've got Sam with us, and we have me. And today's topic is basically kind of like how to start being a gaming content creator, because that's kind of what we all are in different aspects, and how we got started and what our goals are and what we're doing are all different. So, and it's a question that I get asked pretty often, even though like I'm by no means some guru or am like big in the space of like content creators. Like I just have we have RetroLogic, the community, and y'all have the All In community, and together, we make this little microcosm of creators that do cool stuff. But like, our numbers are not astronomical, but I feel like we've done a pretty good job of kind of fostering community and inviting others in and making some pretty good content. So I thought it'd be kind of a cool conversation to have. Got some questions for everyone. But first, and especially for Eric, because your story I know is pretty interesting with like how you got started in videography and where you are now. What's your like content creation background, and how did you get started doing All In?
You're right. I do actually have a fairly interesting kind of path to becoming a Nintendo content creator, just a content creator in general. I was an incredibly introverted young man when I was younger. Grew up in the military, so I was moving from place to place every couple of years. Never really, opened up to many people. But by the time I got to college, we had finally kind of settled down, and we had been there long enough that I was kind of starting to allow myself to actually say human words to other people. But kind of because of that, one of the routes that I decided to take in college was communications. That was my field of study. That's the area that I got my bachelor's degree in. So I went full steam ahead.
Was that your way of like bucking or like challenging yourself?
In a way, yeah. There was, a lot of interest there. I was on the school newspaper back when I was in high school, because stuff like that did always kind of interest me. But I did also go to high school in the place where we were able to finally settle down up in Clarksville, Tennessee. I went to high school at Montgomery Central High School. Go Indians. Or I don't even know if that's PC anymore, whatever. But
they probably changed it.
Yeah, but then I wound up going to my alma mater, Austin Peay State University, and they didn't really necessarily have like a hardcore journalism route that I could take, but they did have communications, communication arts, communication theory, broadcast communications. I started out kind of thinking that I might want to get into computer coding, but one semester of that threw me off of that very quickly.
Oh my gosh.
So I do have all the respect in the world for video game coders and developers and stuff like that. I'm not strong enough for that. I'm not good enough for that. But what I did find I was good at is videography and radio and broadcasting and stuff like that. I was really good at communication theory. When it came to, that type of stuff, I'm not good at many things. I'm not very good in the kitchen. I'm a terrible navigator. But when it comes to like communication and, the art of it, the subtlety of it, the theory behind it, little, even subliminal aspects of communication, when it comes to that, I can kind of like see the Matrix.
Well,
to the point where I've actually considered writing a book several times on communication theory.
That's interesting. It almost makes me think it's a little bit like my journey. And what I've sort of discovered about myself is that I chose to go into a field where I'm behind the camera, because I'm also a videographer. I've chose to go into a field where I'm behind the camera so that I'm not in front of the camera, kind of, and if there was ever any like social awkwardness, being able to kind of take myself out of that and look at things from the outside and analyze it kind of demystified social interaction. Do you feel like that rings true for you?
I do feel like it helped me a lot. It kind of, not just because the skills that I learned, but because going through that helped me find who I was. And just that alone made me feel so much more comfortable in my own skin, so much more comfortable and able to open up to others. It wasn't just building the skill set. It wasn't just learning that knowledge. It was finding myself, essentially finding the path that I felt that I was supposed to be on and becoming comfortable with myself even beyond that. And
that's awesome that you kind of found a vocation that sort of also acted as like a counselor, or kind of like brought you out of your shell, so to speak.
Yeah, and it was crazy because that's not the easiest field to really find a job in. So I was trying to do something. I immediately, my final semester, I went straight into, I walked right into the office of a few of the local publications, local newspaper, and sent my resumes out to a bunch of other people, but nothing kind of clicked, unfortunately. And long story short, I wound up in a really kind of bad financial situation, wound up getting kicked out of my apartment. I wound up homeless for a little while, and eventually had to move back down to Florida to kind of set myself back up. But ironically enough, I'd gotten to a point where I thought that kind of my only way forward was to join the military.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of reserved myself to being an infantry grunt or a cook or something that I knew was going to make me absolutely miserable for the next 5, 6, 7, 20 years. But when I went into the recruiter's office, I saw this little job listing for what's known in the military as 46 Romeo, the public affairs broadcast specialist. And I looked directly at my recruiter. I was like, are you telling me that I can be a broadcast journalist in the Army? He was like, yeah, well, you got to have the scores and you got to have the knowledge. And I basically just kind of laughed at that when he told me, because obviously I had the scores and the knowledge.
Right.
They gave me the test for it. It's called the ASVAB test.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to score. I'm not going to start bragging about my scores, but suffice it to say, the score that they told me that I had to get, that they were very tentative about even telling me how high the score was I basically added an extra digit to that score. They wanted more infantry grunts. They wanted more cooks, but I was so apt at that particular job and had done so well in all their little tests and everything that they basically just said, fine, take it.
Fine, you could do what you want.
Yeah. So for 7 years in the U.S. Army, I was an actual television broadcaster. A lot of the stuff that I've still done is still very readily available on YouTube. Just jump on YouTube and do a search for Sergeant Eric Provost, ERICPROVOST, and a lot of the stuff that I did with the 4th Brigade Combat Team, 10th Mountain Division, the 3rd Brigade Combat Team, 101st Airborne Division, the Roxons. A lot of the stuff I still did is still up there, and it made me so happy to be able to take that knowledge and be able to do what I loved in the military for so long.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, I had the best job in the Army. I really did. I absolutely loved it. Going to work every day, I absolutely loved it. And I was incredibly grateful and incredibly fortunate to have that job for 7 years. But after 7 years, you got to move on. Things happen. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to wind up getting stuck behind a desk watching younger soldiers come in and do the job that I wanted to do for the rest of my career. So I decided to get out, and unfortunately, more hard times. But
it's
at
tough,
this point,
man. It's tough as in that field. It's very tough.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But thankfully, while I was in the military, I had made a couple friends. One, Seth Sturgill, comes to mind. I met him because I was actually stationed down at Fort Polk, down in Louisiana, right outside of Leesville. And that's how I met Seth. So while everything was going on and the world just kind of went from, how some people like to go from strength to strength, the world itself just kind of went from, went from poo to poo, essentially, for a while.
Yeah. So what year was this?
I got out of the military in 2015.
Okay.
And, just nothing really just kind of clicked. For some reason, nothing really happened. No matter what I was doing, no matter what my resume, because I had developed an amazing resume and I was incredibly good at what I did, but for some reason it just never clicked with anyone. So, but yeah, come 2020, come last year, Seth and I finally just, we had been talking about it for so long. We had become really good friends by then. He had done several podcasts with a few different people, but we had always talked about doing a Nintendo podcast because we were both such huge Nintendo fans, so knowledgeable and just so dialed into that world.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it'd been several years since I had really been able to use that communication skill set. But eventually, right in the middle of the pandemic, when we both kind of needed something, I wasn't really using my skill set for anything else at that point. I have since found a job in marketing and advertising and broadcasting again, so very fortunate to be back in the field. But yeah, that was kind of my long-winded roundabout way to becoming a Nintendo content creator, is taking my incredibly shy, introverted youth, turning that into a communications broadcasting path, parlaying that into a military career, and then finally post-military using that skill set and using the natural knowledge base that I had gained as a lifetime Nintendo gamer to finally jump into this world of independent Nintendo and video game content creation.
Awesome. Yeah, and you and Seth definitely have you do what you do very differently, but it works really well.
Thank you.
On the show, and that's just a byproduct of like you guys being friends, but also just your different experiences, and your different skill sets. So Sam, what about you? I don't actually think I know how you started doing this, because you were doing a little bit of streaming and blogging as Third Strongest Mole before you became a RetroLogic host. So
yeah,
how did all that get started for you?
Without going too into the weeds of it, I mean, I got out of school and found myself actually having free time after grad school, which did not afford me a whole lot of free time.
Yeah, I imagine.
And so I think the real segue was probably Nintendo Dads. That's a Discord server we met on. Mm-hmm. Just, actually interacting with people in a meaningful way. Prior to that, exposure to, the sort of peripheral content around games, around Nintendo was just, it's just another thing I consume. But this was, actually interactive, actually getting into some conversations with people about stuff. Finding that, I had something to contribute. I think probably the first big step would have been the Dinner Table podcast, which mm-hmm. Tim is still running to this day, which is a community podcast for members of the Discord. Just jump in and everybody kind of talks, kind of round table style about different topics. And that I discovered I really actually enjoyed that, because I also have been kind of socially awkward in my own way. And I find that podcasts are really great because it's how I wish normal conversations work, where you know what you're going to talk about ahead of time and you can sort of plan for it. And you can also just be quiet and let other people talk for like 10 minutes and it's good. You can't do that in normal conversations usually. People start to think, what are you doing here? Why are you just listening? Or, I don't know. It's just something about that clicked. So I kind of started thinking about doing more. And the other thing was the blog. Streaming kind of came later, just as a, I might as well try this now that I'm in this deep. I'll just see how it goes, because I'm playing games anyway. I can put this out there and just see where it takes me. But I think the blog was, it's still up actually, thirdstrongestmole.com. And I still own the domain name. I started with reviews, and I wanted to do print content, even though it's kind of like a dying art form in some ways. I wanted to do printed word stuff, mostly because I have no experience with filming or video editing or any of that, and I didn't want to learn. Mm-hmm. And the other thing was just like, I really like words. I've always been just a nerd for, like, I read books about etymology for fun. I've even read the dictionary for fun before.
That's hardcore.
But learn some new stuff.
I played Bug Fables, and this was before it came to Switch, so nobody was talking about it. Nobody was talking about it. I'm like, I should write a review of Bug Fables because I really like this game. I really love Paper Mario. I think I have an audience here already because I'm in these Nintendo Discord servers and people love Paper Mario, and I want to tell them why this game is like basically as good as, if not better than, Paper Mario. I also really wanted to use the word chartachise in a sentence, and I accomplished that.
Yeah, you gotta have goals in life.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, cool. Yeah.
And then I guested on the RetroLogic podcast like 3 or 4 times, and you just made me a host.
Well, I when I see passion, I see talent. Try to capitalize on that. Plus, I love your writing, and I think it's really interesting. So I wanted other people to see it. So if I could boost you that way, that worked out for both of us. I think it's kind of interesting how kind of all three of us came from a place of like, oh, socially awkward, didn't really want to be. Although I kind of had a weird thing where like I was socially awkward, but I loved being on stage. Like I did a lot of stage acting in middle school, high school, like a lot, like everything I could be in, I was in on stage. But like if you talked to me, if a stranger wanted to be like, "Hey, great job," I'd be like, yep, okay, bye. Like I didn't want to talk to you, but like stage was, because I did like it's a different interaction.
It's your happy place. It's where you're comfortable.
Yeah, like I'm putting on a show. I'm putting on a show, and like you don't have to interact. Like you're not talking to me about something. I'm entertained. I get to be a character. Like I don't have to be Dan. I could be whoever. So, so that sort of evolved into what was like tons of different creative projects over the years, different YouTube channels and just individual projects. I was extremely lucky to get to become a videographer editor for a pretty big church that had like several videographers on staff. After teaching myself Premiere Pro, and then from there it just kind of all went video. It was all about video for me. I started doing weddings and started getting other clients and doing like product shoots and all kinds of stuff like that, and then doing like fun stuff on the side, like rap videos and like silly stuff with friends. And then just as you get married and get older and have kids, there's not enough time for that kind of creative outlet. And I was 33, and I just remember thinking like, I need to somehow like find space in my life for some kind of creative outlet, some way to be going back to where I started, some way to be on stage again, and that became RetroLogic. That became the podcast. It started with collecting video games, which I wanted to do anyway. I also, another goal of mine was to have a video game collection, and here we are. But RetroLogic kind of became the stage, and like I could be much more authentic here than I could be on stage, because I feel like the community fosters kind of authenticity and friendship as opposed to like an audience performer relationship, which is very one-sided. And so here we are, So, if you could be, well, what's your favorite thing about content creation? Like, what about it jazzes you and gets you excited about it? Eric, first.
I mean, honestly, just doing it, just creating something and putting it out into the world, because that's one of the reasons that I got into this field is, there's so many jobs that you go and you perform your job, but I feel like it's just being a cog in a machine. Sure, they're important. I'm not diminishing the importance of anybody's job, but I just always knew I had a creative mind. I always knew that I had good ideas, and I always knew that from that aspect I had something to offer. I knew that I had the ability to put something together and put it out into the world for others' enjoyment or their education or their inspiration. And being able to do that has always just attracted me to the process, because if I'd found myself, I'm just going to come out and say it, I'm not good at factory jobs. I'm not strong enough mentally to be able to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I just knew that for me, if I had done that, as good as the money might have been, if I had just done that for 20 years, I'd look back and say, what did I actually accomplish? I may have become like a shift leader or something, but by the end of it, I just felt like I may have a couple extra things in my life, but when it comes to my career, I don't feel like I would have actually left anything. So when it comes to creating things, anything that gives me an outlet to put something together and create it and put it out into the world, anything that allows me to make something that can have an audience I've just always been attracted to.
If I could challenge you on something, Eric, I have heard you say,
please do,
more than once, something to the effect of like, I'm not strong enough to have a factory job, like you just kind of said.
Oh, trust me, I've pinballed between a couple of them.
Well, and I think, and I'm sure that a factory job is very difficult for you. It would be difficult for me too. But I think that it's not that you're not strong enough. And this is all speaking from personal experience. It's that the way that our brains work are just not wired for that kind of like linear,
monotonous,
linear, repetitive, single task work. We have very divergent brains, which means that we bounce from thing to thing to thing in a very, not random, but a very, because in our brains, it's not random, but to an outsider, it might seem random, right? It's a very sort of sporadic way. And we're not built to do things in a linear sort of like ABC path. And that kind of brain needs to do something creative. So the word, when you're using the word strength, I want to challenge you on that to try to change your verbiage into like, you're not built for it. Somebody else is built for it. You're built for other things. That would be my challenge to you if you would accept it. But I definitely relate to you in that way where like I've had like call center jobs before where it's the same call over and over and over again. And there were days where I would call in sick because I just could not bring myself to like make one more phone call. Like I'm not built for that at all. So I totally get that. And jumping into this chair and doing this podcast every week is just a joy because like I made an outline and we have a topic and I get to talk about stories and we get to talk about video games and we get to play a game and we do all these different things for an audience, so it brings me a lot of joy to be able to do that. And so what about you, Sam? What's your favorite thing about content creation? Why do you do it?
I would say from our content and the content I've made, probably, and this shouldn't be a surprise since I'm always championing these kind of oddball games and things like that. It's anytime I kind of am able to, I wouldn't say open somebody's eyes, but anytime I'm able to sort of like see that I have contributed something, I guess. It's that, not necessarily that I had to persuade somebody to do something or change somebody's mind on something, but just to put something out there that I think, and not to be contrarian for no point, but to put something out there that I don't see other people saying. That's kind of what draws me to that is like, okay, let's collectively deepen our understanding by drawing attention to this overlooked fact or overlooked thing or the good point of a game that people like to rag on or the bad point of a game that people hold up a little too high. Just, that's always kind of what I'm trying to do.
Kind of like challenge or teach people.
Bring balance to the force.
Yeah. And like not to be contrarian because I don't want to say things I don't actually think.
Sure.
But to, to sort of be that balance that kind of, elevate the things that are getting overlooked and maybe just, point out some things that get overlooked.
Well, and that's a big part of the RetroLogic culture is celebrating diamonds in the rough, things that have been overlooked. Absolutely. And I think you're a big part of that.
You could even say it's a little bit about, I don't even want to necessarily talk it up this much, but kind of educating, I guess. And I only say that because from where I was coming, when I was a grad student, I actually really liked the fact that I was also a teaching assistant at the time. Like that was probably one of the most joyful things of that point in my life was when a student would come to me for help with a homework problem or just questions about class. And when they would leave and I could tell they actually understood something they didn't before, that made me feel very good. Yeah.
Awesome. So you're definitely a teacher. There's definitely a side of that to you. And there's a lot of value that you bring when anytime you come up with some like ridiculous game that nobody's ever heard of, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna play Mirage. What was it? The treasure game?
Silhouette Mirage.
Yeah, it's like, oh, in the back of my mind, I feel like I've heard of that. What is that? But now we all get to experience it because of your education, you know? So I think that there's a lot of value there that you bring. So I really appreciate that. So another question for you guys, what are some obstacles or challenges that make it difficult to create how you want to? And then how do you overcome them and create anyway? So Eric, go ahead.
I mean, you just got to be fluid. I mean, everything has the potential to change. So sometimes you just got to kind of roll with it. Seth and I have run across quite a few times where we've had to change things on the fly to make different plans at the last second. There are some episodes that we've been able to plan out weeks in advance. There are some episodes that we get to a couple days before. And for anybody who's actually listened to our show knows that we put a lot of work into every episode.
Mm-hmm.
So, some days it'll get to Tuesday, Wednesday, just a couple days out. And Seth and I are just looking at each other like, what are we doing? So you just have to be fluid.
Yeah.
When it comes to creating anything, you just have to be fluid. If you feel like you have a good idea, pursue it. But if you run into obstacles, or if you even run into a dead end, try not to treat that as if it's the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always a new idea around the corner. There's always a new with something you were incredibly passionate about. Maybe you run into something a little while down the line that not only makes that feasible, but even enhances one of those old ideas. So be fluid. Don't be, I don't want to say don't get married to things, but don't be afraid to say no for right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's really good. Because also saying no to one thing means you get to say yes to something else, and vice versa. So you don't know what you're saying no to by saying yes to this. And, so it's always good to be decisive, to be flexible and decisive in what you're creating. Sam, what about you? Some obstacles or challenges that make it difficult to create how you want to, and how do you? How can you overcome
that? Decisiveness is, you think about writing in particular. It's always hard to get that first paragraph out because you want it to be perfect. But if you wait for it to be perfect, it's never going to happen. Like you just got to do something, and you can go back and change it later. Like just keep going, and especially if you're still new at something, and I'm still new at all this, really. Just have fun with it and make some mistakes. Like that's fine. You're not going to be the best at first. Like you have to start small. You have to be willing to just put something out there and then improve from there. Mm-hmm. Don't, set the bar too high for yourself. Like I'm going to put this out and it's going to, I'm going to put this video out and it's going to go viral. I'm going to put this, I'm going to write a song and it's going to change the world. Like you can start smaller than that. It's fine. Because if you're ever going to get there, you're going to start smaller than that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even I've been in a position where I've kidded myself to say, I'm going to take this first draft so slow and meticulous that I'm only going to need one draft for this novel.
Mm-hmm. Well, and kind of what you do is you psych yourself out of it. You're like, oh, this is such a daunting task now because I've hyped myself up about making it this grand thing that it never gets done. And I'm incredibly guilty of that. And anybody in the Discord server knows that like there are projects that I would have loved to do or had ideas for that I talk about, and I'll say like, hey, what do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about this? And people are on board, but I just, the goal becomes so far that I don't even start. Now, one of the things for me, I have a tendency to very much like kind of just get tired and not work on a project, which is usually very life-giving for me, is working on a project. And so one of the things, especially for RetroLogic, that has kind of kept things rolling through what has been a very difficult season for me, is that we're on a schedule. I have Monday nights every single week blocked off. My whole family knows Monday nights is podcast night for Dad. So, you know, and like I said, schedule it in a way where it's not like a detriment to my family. You know, like we start at 9 p.m. because that's when I know all the kids are going to be asleep. You know, I could have spent time with my wife earlier in the evening, and now I have the rest of the night to create. So every Monday, that has to be the thing. And this is how the podcast gets made. Because if not, if we're like, oh, when do you want to do it this week? I don't know. I'm kind of busy. Yeah. Then we would have died already. The podcast would be gone. So giving yourself like a hard schedule, and there, honestly, totally honest, there are nights when I get up here and I'm like, I feel like junk. I had a horrible day and I don't want to talk about video games to my friends right now. I just want to go to sleep, or I just want to veg out. But we do it. And not only does the community kind of like, once we're rolling, I'm like, okay, I'm glad I did this. But the community and you guys are my accountability for that, you know? So giving yourself accountability, maybe having a friend with you on the creative process to hold you accountable, to say like, hey, you know, it's Monday night. Where are you? You know, you got to work on your project or whatever. That's huge. That's the only way I get anything done in a house where I'm a freelance contractor, and if I don't work, I don't get paid. And I have 3 kids and, you know, an extroverted wife who needs to verbally process her entire day to me every night. That's a lot. And so in order to do a creative project, it has to be on the calendar. That's my challenge, and that's how I overcome it.
Yeah, Saturday is our, you know, that is our line in the sand for me and Seth. Mm-hmm. This coming Saturday will be the 81st week in a row that we have dropped 2.5, 3 hours worth of content on our adoring public. We have not missed a single week since we started this podcast last year. And that is something that we are both incredibly proud of, and incredibly tired.
Yes,
from it's doing. Tiring. There are some situations that I have really had to kind of slog through in order to put out an episode. And that's not to say that we ever try to take, you know, the short route, that we ever try to take the easy way out. You know, we find a way to try to make each episode the best that we can, because we feel that, you know, you always kind of want, you always kind of think, you always kind of have that fantasy as a content creator that the right person will eventually see it. Mm-hmm. And that could be any given episode, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I've had some episodes where I feel bad, where I'm like, that might have been our worst episode, and I really hope we don't have any like brand new listeners starting this week. Like, this would be a bad one to start on. But you know, it balances out, and you live and learn, and you just keep going. I will say that so here's a question for you guys. As somebody who has created something and put it out there, that can be a very daunting thing for somebody for the very first time to say, I'm gonna make a thing, and I'm not gonna make the best thing ever, because then I'll never do it, but I'm gonna make it, and then I'm gonna put it out there. The internet can be a very toxic, can be a very like hypercritical place to put something. And a lot of people will they might make something, but they're not going to release that thing. Heaven forbid. So as people who have made a thing and released it, what advice might you have, or what practical advice might you have for somebody who has an idea for a thing or has a thing and is anxious to release it?
Sam, you want to take that first?
I mean, I don't have a whole lot.
You don't even think about it.
I've just been
like,
lucky.
I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's generally been my approach. Is I don't worry about it.
Okay.
Like I kind of put it out there, and I'm not one for aggressive self-promotion. I just try to make sure my stuff is like findable. And I'm honestly of the, like, you talk to a lot of people about this and they'll say like, you need to do this, you need to have a Twitter account, you need to post every day. And there may be some truth to that, but the way I see it, there's two reasons that people are going to find and enjoy your content. One is because the content is good. Two is because it's easy to find. You can focus on it being easy to find, but nobody really likes that guy that's just everywhere putting his mediocre stuff out there. Like, and I'm not saying this to be mean, but
That's
like,
true.
In an ideal world, you're great at both of those things. But in the real world, both of those things have room for improvement. If you're going to improve one thing, if you're going to put all your effort into improving one thing, just make the best content you can. If you can do that, people will eventually find it.
Because and
you'll have to be persistent at it. But that's part of improving is to keep doing it.
You kind of have to do both, but if you get fans, your fans will attract more fans, and that's true. If your content is great, my other piece is that, so there's two things that I would say, and that's when you do, and you will, if you drop something on the internet, you will get somebody who's just going to troll you or be toxic or give you bad criticism. You just have to get that thick skin and let it roll off of you and not take it personal, because they don't know you. They are probably doing it to try to get a rise out of you. So don't respond and just let it go. You have to, you have to let it go, and you have to move on. You have to learn that skill, and you're only going to learn that skill through going through something like that. And you're only going to go through something like that if you learn something.
That can even go the other way too. Like if you've got a group of friends that'll, cheer you for putting something out there, they may blind you to the things that do need improvement. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've said this before. Everybody needs a Flightsy in their community. Because Flightsy, he's our fact checker, bro. He will check us on our stuff, and I really appreciate that. Like, you don't want to surround yourself with yes men. That's absolutely right, Sam. That's absolutely right. So you kind of have to have both. You need to have a safe space with people you trust to give you honest criticism when you need it, and you need to be able to take that. So telling the difference between that and a troll is also very important. If it's a total stranger, that advice is probably not worth as much. So that's a good rule of thumb.
Well, and sometimes it may even be like people have valid criticism, but they put it very poorly. And you've got to kind of, chew the meat, spit out the bones kind of stuff.
That's good. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. One of the things that I've always said about RetroLogic is that I always want to make sure that I'm having fun. And like sometimes I don't feel like doing the episode, like I've said. Like sometimes I just had a bad day and I don't want to talk. But it's still fun. Once I start, it's fun, and I've made the show notes, and I get to talk to my friends. So I feel like we've succeeded at that, and that makes it easy to make something high quality. Eric, you've been quiet. I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I mean, if you're considering creating anything, especially in the past 10 years, the independent creator landscape in so many different industries has just absolutely exploded. There's just so many ways for you to make something and get it out there, to be able to self-publish, to be able to to put up your creation wherever you want to. And as such, there are more independent creators now than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's a ton of vitriol, as Seth likes to say. There's a ton of negativity and a ton of toxicity on the internet. Absolutely, I will never dispute that. But I really think that a lot of people would be surprised at how immediately and completely and unconditionally supportive that independent creator community can be. Because they understand.
Very true. It's about finding your community too. So, yeah.
So if you are creating something, you are putting it out there. There are other people, go figure, you're not alone, who are putting similar stuff out there. Maybe not your stuff, but stuff that, is your stuff adjacent.
Mm-hmm. I can't tell you.
They're going through a lot of the same trials. They're going through a lot of the same challenges as you. And you would be amazed. A lot of people would be amazed at how quickly they can find a fairly large support group, who will genuinely want to help them. And in addition to that, maybe learn from them and grow with them.
Find those
people. Yes, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of negativity, a lot of toxicity out there. But if you make that leap, you would be amazed at how many people are there to your left and to your right trying to make that leap alongside you.
That's right. Yeah.
Meet them, talk to them, learn from them.
Between RetroLogic All-In, Nintendo Pals like Sistership, and the Nintendo Dads, who kind of helped birth RetroLogic, outside of that, I've just met people on Twitter that are now like my friends that know what I do, and we support each other. Fernley Flynn and Sean Capri and Well-Read Mage and like innumerable others that I interact with on Twitter and online that are all content creators that just, we support each other. And so yeah, finding your community, your internal community and your external community is very important to help you keep going.
Yeah. And one of the things that we do a lot on our show is we have a lot of guests on. We have a ton of different podcast guests. We have a lot of independent video game developers. We have a lot of people who are within the industry in a lot of different facets. And that's one of the things that I'm incredibly proud to say is a lot of those people I still consider friends. Mm-hmm. I love video games, and I can actually say that I know and am friends with several people who make video games. And, just even outside of, content creation, that makes me happy because I don't really have too many, friends. There's not too many people that I go out on the weekends with and get beers with or anything like that. Most of my actual friends are, brothers in earphones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ditto. So if you're listening to this, you're a creator and you're creating something and you just want a community or you want another content creator to like bounce ideas off of, or to just have somebody else online that like knows that you're a creator and will help promote your stuff, please reach out. I know that both Seth and Eric are really, really good about that and want to make friends. And I know I'm on Twitter and I'm all about that. So you can @ me on Twitter at RetroLogic Games. And Eric, if you want to drop your Twitter or wherever you want to be found.
Yeah, please follow the show at All In Podcast on Facebook, at All In Podcast on Twitter. Again, the show is on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud, Podchaser. We've got YouTube, we've got Twitch. You can follow me at All In _ Eric. You can follow my co-host Seth at $2 Hero. Come check out the show. Come talk to us. We have our own Discord as well. And just like RetroLogic, we do try to cultivate a uniformly positive environment in a lot of the stuff we do. Not saying we don't criticize things, because we definitely do, but we do try to maintain a positive community. So you are welcome to join it. We would love if you did.
And then Sam, where can people find you?
You can find me at retrologic.games primarily. I do have a Twitter account. Hasn't been terribly active since Plocktober ended, but
that's a shame.
We'll get you back. We'll get you back for Odama Rama. Okay, cool. So, say your Twitter again.
at Multhird.
Okay, cool. Good deal. Awesome. Well, yeah, so we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to hop on the community couch and just kind of round out the year, guys. The year of RetroLogic 2021. We have a bunch of people in the community who submitted an answer to a question that I asked, and then a couple questions for us. And then we'll wrap it up. Wrap up the year. So we'll see you guys in just a second. Welcome back. We're here on the community couch, hanging out with the community.
It's a comfy couch.
It is. It is comfy, isn't it? Yeah. What are you guys drinking tonight? What do you got?
Milk, actually.
That might be a first. Awesome.
Yeah. So it's early on in the week, and I need a lot of. I don't need to. There's a few drinks that I don't necessarily need right now. Maybe after the holidays done, I'll indulge a little bit. But for right now, I need to keep it healthy and lucid.
Okay, good deal. What about you, Sam? What are you drinking?
Eggnog.
Nice.
It's almost Christmas.
Nice. We're busting it out. I've got some coffee that I brewed earlier to keep my throat nice and warm.
Yes.
It's a gingerbread coffee, actually, and a Keurig. So, yeah, it's pretty good. Not gonna knock it. But so let's first talk about Odama Rama, Sam, which is starting January 1st.
It explains itself. What more do you need to know?
What else do you got to know? Go, if you have a GameCube, go pick up a copy of Odama. It's very cheap. You could probably find it for $15.
Odama is, once again, a tactical military strategy / pinball game for the GameCube that uses the GameCube microphone.
Voice activated.
So you will need a microphone.
Mm-hmm.
It does plug into the memory card slot. So if you have a Wii compatible with GameCube games that has the GameCube memory card slot, you can play it on a Wii as well.
The Wii is a more reliable and easier to find and cheaper way to play GameCube games. If you don't
and like literally everyone already owns a Wii.
Yeah, like you probably have one in your closet, so just go whip that out.
I found one underneath my. I found one on my chair while I was trying to sit down. Actually,
yeah, they're in the couch. They're everywhere.
hey Sam, weren't you on the K&W with Seth for Odama?
Yes. That was way back. It was like forever ago now.
Yeah.
A little while ago.
That was one of the earliest Keep Nintendo Weirds, I think. That was like the third or fourth episode or something.
I'm trying to get better to align with Cape Nintendo Weird. You guys had your Plock podcast during Plocktober, so I have to keep Seth in the loop on what we're doing. Makes me kind of helps me plan ahead. But
and I will mention too, for people hunting down Odama, this is one. I'm not a complete in box guy, but like, if you can, get the manual for Odama. It is some great reading. It reveals to you the secret history of Nintendo.
I don't have that.
Long forgotten to time.
Okay, now I'm gonna have to eBay it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
That's amazing. Okay, so let's jump back over here. So we have a couple of... Okay, so I asked the community a question this week because this is our last show, our last recorded show of 2021. Next week, when you listen, you'll be hearing our Game of the Year episode for 1991. Which was so fun to record. I cannot wait for you guys to listen to it. But for now, to kind of wrap up the year for RetroLogic, I asked the community, I said, hey guys, next week will be the last community couch of the year. I'd love to hear how your collection has grown in 2021. What retro games did you play for the first time? And what are your hopes for 2022? And I instructed everyone to try to keep their responses brief. And I will now read them and we can react to them. We can talk about it. So Andros first comes at us with some very lovely words. He says, I'd love to hear y'all's year in review for the podcast. How did you grow as a podcast and as podcasters? Any big milestones? What is your favorite show moment of the year? I feel like that's where my growth has been for this year. Where we started in 2021 with Nintendo Pals and where we've ended up is wild. We're still small, but have grown so much. Can't wait to keep growing too, both in viewership and content creation skills. So just to answer his question really quick, our viewership has grown quite a bit since the beginning of 2021. I'm not going to do like numbers here, but yeah, we've grown for sure. The community's grown a little bit. I kind of slowed down on some content creation I was doing toward the end of the year because I was going through a lot of stuff, but things still seem to grow. I mean, the podcast kept going. Probably the thing that I'm the most, man, I don't know what my favorite like a moment was. Do you have a favorite moment of the year, Sam? Can you think of one?
Like on the podcast?
I think your sugar packet story was pretty crazy.
It's a good one.
That's a
I've been
story.
sharing that a lot lately, just talking about gift exchanges.
That's an excellent one.
Ironically enough, in regards to All-In's potential moment of the year, ironically enough, I think our moment of the year includes Andros.
What was that?
Because if you guys haven't seen, we played Super Mario Party, or not Super Mario Party, Mario Party Superstars, rather.
Oh, yeah.
With Andros. And there was this absolutely legendary play where after Andros had just been getting, just rolling everything he absolutely needed to the entire game.
Oh my god.
Because we did a full 30 turn game because we're masochists.
My god.
But just for the longest time, it was just nothing but luck, to the point where he had 6 stars more than any one of us. And hit a chance space and traded his stars with the one bot. And went
It's always the CPU player, too.
It's always the CPU player.
Oh, no.
It's cursed, especially when you got 3 humans. And this happened to me a lot because I had 2 brothers growing up. So we had a lot of playing 3 people and 1 CPU to fill. The CPU cheats, man.
Yeah, it was
I can't prove it. You can prove it for Dokapon Kingdom. The CPU definitely cheats.
That's
that
I'll have to find
legendary.
that. I'll have to find that. I'm sure y'all clipped it. I'll have to find that.
Oh, Seth absolutely clipped it. That was absolutely legendary.
That's great. All right, Frosticles coming at us with an answer. He says, first game I played was Super Paper Mario. Wii is now retro, right? Yes, absolutely it is. I picked up Rodea and Final Fantasy VIII, both yet to play. I hope
Rodea the Sky Soldier.
Yeah, man. Did you pick up a brand new copy when they were like
Seth did. I didn't. I didn't know about it.
I did, and I don't even have my Wii U anymore, but it does have the Wii version included.
You can still get it.
Which is the better version, apparently.
Yeah, the Wii version is the best. But you can still get it for dirt cheap on eBay, like $20 brand new if you really want one. But that game is destined for greatness, I'm telling you. It's going to be an expensive one someday. He also says... Final Fantasy VIII, both yet to play. I hope to make more time and get more games to play and add to my collection. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Retro Peeps. Rodea is a great pickup. $2 Hero, I know that guy. He says at 20.
He's a jerk.
All right. Great. Awesome. 2021. Way to keep the positive attitude there. 2021 was my kind of big dive back into retro gaming, albeit in my own small way. I don't have a massive collection, but it's been such a joy to pick up some of these older games that I love. Highlights from the year include Mischief Makers. Yes. Bait and Kaidos, Golden Sun, and my beautiful complete in box copy of WarioWare. Nice. Can't wait
to use to summon WarioWare. Get it together.
He did, man. He did it. I'm so glad he did that. Can't wait to play Odama next month for Odamarama. Awesome. Thank you, Seth.
Odamarama.
Love Seth. Love Eric. So good. Fight Crab Fanatic, also known as the Ambassador. I got my first Nintendo Switch this year, so I can see what all the fuss was about. I also started collecting early 2000s PC games like Medal of Honor Pacific and Advent Rising. That's cool. That's a unique collection.
Advent Rising, yeah. Good game. Underrated game, Advent Rising.
Was that also on Xbox?
Yes.
I think so. I keep seeing it pop up, so I might need to pick it up. Chris HL94 says, my collection has grown a little, mostly thanks to the Free Stuff Friday RetroLogic channel. Hey, you're going to grow your collection one way or another, free or not.
I respect that.
I expanded into GameCube and Game Boy games. I didn't own a Nintendo GameCube because I was a starving college student when it was released, so I would like to get more of those games next year. There's still some relatively inexpensive GameCube stuff, but that console in particular has really blew up price-wise.
Yeah, we as a matter of fact, we spoke with Barry Carenza of Premium Edition Games just a couple of weeks ago, and kind of had a similar conversation to this. And he said, it's just every year or every time a console or something hits the 20-year mark, you had all the people who grew up with it all of a sudden becoming adults and going back and actively seeking that stuff from their childhood out.
Big time. Yeah. It was 2019 when I started recollecting, and that, 2019, 1999, that's, that's when I was 12, which was, 98 was N64, I want to say. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that definitely tracks. All right. Adrock, good old Adrock, host of Retro Groove podcast on the network, and my brother, says 2021 is the year that I got back into the retro game world after a long hiatus. I realize this is probably the worst time in history to do so, and it would mean that my vinyl record collecting will have to slow down a bit to accommodate the financial impact. But once again, owning an NES and a Game Boy Advance has brought me great deal of joy. Next year, I hope to curate and expand both my vinyl records and game collections with quality over quantity. Awesome. Yeah, he got a really nice NES haul, some great games, and then he started setting up like his apartment with like his little setup. It's really, really cool to see that come together.
Nice. I better see, speaking to the NES, I mentioned Die Hard.
Yeah.
Earlier, I better see Die Hard in your Game of the Year 1991 discussions.
What was that, a 91 game?
It was 91. It was a very late NES game.
I'm almost positive.
It may not have made the cut.
There's no way that game made the cut.
Fake news.
I think it was in a category somewhere.
No, I don't think so. I only did cream of the crop, dude. Like best of the best. I'm not going to talk about everything. That show's 2.5 hours as it is. Solo something
sounds like an all-in episode.
Yeah, exactly. Solo something says, I will try to keep it short. My collection grew in the world of monsters that needed to be dealt with, with only to in another game befriend. Okay, hang on, let me read this real quick. My collection grew in the world of monsters that needed to be dealt with, only to, in another game, befriend these same monsters and raise them as my own. My dance moves got better in Fortnite, not on Mick Jagger or Magic Mike levels. There he goes. I finally found out what Samus is made of and discovered how amazing it is to ride a Loftwing. So for 2022, I want Breath of the Wild 2, and I want a Loftwing. And I want to take on... what?
Nergigante.
Thank you, Sam. I knew you knew what that was.
Monster Hunter.
Okay.
See, at least in these later games, they say the names of the monsters sometimes.
Yeah.
Since he was a flagship for World, you got to hear his name a lot.
That's good. Good for you guys. Awesome. Thank you, Solo Something. Thanks for being just a valued member of the community and always having some really great retro stuff coming from Solo Something. All right. Oops says, wasn't the first time I played it, but I did 100% Symphony of the Night for the first time this year. Also played Plock for the first time. Yes. We got a first timer. So good. Oops is a relatively new member of the community too, so awesome. Welcome, Oops. And Symphony of the Night is a game that I still have to play. Haven't even touched it.
So good.
So good. Flightsy coming at us says, it's hard to remember what goes to which years, but the big thing I added to my collection this year was Tetris for the Game Boy and an original Game Boy. I'm surprised how much fun it was to play Tetris on the original hardware. My hopes for 2022 are that I can hit my stride with content creation, that the new Kirby game is so good, and that Rhythm Heaven and Pikmin games are announced. Yes, please, more Pikmin. Kirby's Dream Land wins something at the GOTY 30, and that people watch the review of Kirby's Dream Land that I'm currently editing. Hey. Yeah, when that gets up, man, we'll have to push that thing.
You know, I'll tell you that new analog pocket really makes me want to start going back and collecting Game Boy games.
Man, all the reviews are so great for it.
It's expensive as heck, and basically, if you try to order one now, you're waiting until the end of 2022.
Yeah.
But
no, like more like early 2023 now.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Infinite Blue says, as my first Fire Emblem game, I played Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, FE1, on Switch. Against all recommendations to not start the series there. I have no guilt for using turn rewind and save states liberally to learn how the systems worked, and ultimately I enjoyed my time with it. As far removed from modern Fire Emblem as it is, and this makes me think that I might enjoy this Fire Emblem game because I'm not a fan of the new ones.
Play games the way you want to play them. If you want to use the rewind function, use the rewind function.
Why the heck not?
Enjoy yourself. You don't have to, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. If you're having fun, more power to you.
Preach. Galaxy Wolf comes at us with, in terms of retro gaming, this year I got into a few collections on the Switch, including Mega Man Legacy Collection 2, Castlevania Anniversary Collection. I discovered that Mega Man 10 is a super underrated game, that my personal favorite of the series. And you guys convinced me to play Castlevania Bloodlines. That was a blast. I guess there's also Joe and Mac 2. That game existed. I'm sorry I made you play that. Other than that, I played some SNES and N64 games on NSO. I completed Kirby's Dream Land 3 for the first time, and when N64 Online came out, I played a ton of Mario Tennis to unlock all the stuff. Actually, scratch that about Mega Man 10. It would be my favorite if I didn't also play Mega Man 5 for the Game Boy this year, and that game is a hidden gem. Lots of Mega Man and Castlevania. I'm really glad they have those collections on the Switch. Like, they go on sale frequently, they're cheap, and they're all great, you know?
Yep.
I'm just waiting for the Castlevania Advanced Collection to drop low enough for me to pull the trigger. Spider Shan comes at us. He says, the biggest way my collection grew this year was with Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance. I picked up a Game Boy Advance for the first time since my original broke years ago. I did a screen mod and started picking up a lot of Game Boy family of games. Great system. In 2022, my hope is to pick up some more of the games I had as a kid that went missing over the course of several moves, mostly NES, Game Boy, a couple SNES. Unfortunately, I doubt I'll ever get the chance to replace the Earthbound cartridge. Yeah. That's like a, 200, 300 now for a cartridge?
It's at that status now where even if like Super Nintendo games in general become cheap, like people, they know Earthbound as a rare game. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, cross your fingers for NSO. It's bound to happen eventually.
Well, I mean, they released a bunch of stuff on the Wii U Virtual Console, so
yeah,
I mean,
it's there. It's on the Wii U.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think a re-release is unlikely at all. Yeah. I think it'll get released. Sure. It's really just a matter of when.
Nintendo Man 89 says, this wasn't the biggest year for gaming for me. I tried a ton of games, but only beat 16 of them. Okay. That's a lot of games. Like, for anyone, 16 games. On the retro front, I played ActRaiser for the first time. I loved it. I beat Dragon Quest 1 through 3 on the Switch. I went back and beat several Pokemon games on original hardware. I beat Sonic 2 in an afternoon on NSO. And in terms of my collection, I added around 40 games to the Switch. I built a nice little PS1 collection. I'm up to 20 PS1 games. And I've also started collecting for GameCube. And I have a nice little stack of games for it. My goal for this year for next year, for more of the same. PlayStation, GameCube, and Nintendo handheld games. Yeah, Nintendo's collection is impressive. I love it. I love looking at pictures of it. He's got some cool stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. Hambone Johnny, rounding us out. Love Hambone Johnny. He's been playing Gunk on a stream lately. I've been checking it out. This year was one where I really got organized. I was able to set up some dedicated space to play all my retro games. As far as the collection goes, I was able to grab a number of DS and GameCube games I missed the first time around. A few notables being Professor Layton, Chrono Trigger on the DS, and Pikmin 1 and 2. Yay, Pikmin! The more importantly, my collection of friends grew this year in large part due to this community. So thank you, Dan, John, Sam, for everything you do, bringing us all together, and a big shout out to everyone else. You are all amazing people. Stay awesome. Oh, Johnny.
Well, we're a couple of his new friends, actually. Hambone Johnny joined us this past year.
Yeah,
so, hey, Johnny.
Thank you, Johnny. That was great. That was very, very nice.
Yeah. Chrono Trigger on the DS, definitive version of that game, IMO.
Okay. I'll have to give it another...
I didn't know you could collect friends.
Oh, yeah.
Haven't you played Pokemon?
We're collectible.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Good deal. Well, thank you, everyone who submitted. Thank you guys for being part of the community. I'm just so incredibly blessed to be surrounded by, like, literally one of the best communities on the internet, you know, next to some really, really great content creators in their own right. I'm just really thankful, so to round everything off, we've got a couple quick community couch questions from the community. We're going to answer these. Then we're going to say good night, Happy New Year, and we'll see you next year. Starting out with Flightsy, I have a question of my own for the podcast. What are your predictions for how GOTY 30 will go in 2051? How do you think we'll look back on this year in gaming 30 years from now? Wow. If RetroLogic's still going in 30 years. Wow. Oh my gosh. What do you guys think Dread will be like looking back on in 30 years?
I mean, that's kind of the thing. Like, I think if you ask me right now what the best game of this year is, I would say Dread.
Yeah.
And I'm weirdly hopeful that I wouldn't 30 years from now, because I think part of it is Dread seems like such a big deal because it's the first classic Metroid game in a long time. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that 30 years from now, we can be like, oh yeah, but there were like even better Metroid games later.
Right? Yeah, like Dread was the beginning of something, you know.
Now, will it have the same legacy as Super Metroid? I don't know, but Super Metroid is a game that still very much holds up to this day, and that's still almost 30 years on.
Yeah.
We're still talking about with reverence. So Metroid Dread could very well wind up having that legacy.
And I think it's harder these days to have that kind of impact because most of like what's been figured out about video games has been figured out, whereas something like Super Metroid like pioneered the genre that we know of as Metroidvania today. So like, and then Metroid Dread, like you could say it perfected it if if that was what you believed.
And
so
at the same time, though, I don't know what else would take that spot from this year. Like, I don't know. Maybe like Sunbreak is really good next year, and so Rise is the best thing ever. But well, when it comes to the
Monster Hunter franchise, just already with a lot of the advancements they made with Monster Hunter Rise, with the wire bug and the Palamute and stuff like that, it's already made a lot of the older Monster Hunter games difficult to go back to. And I could very, very easily see Monster Hunter games in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years continuing to make advancements that'll make Monster Hunter Rise feel archaic in a couple decades. I can very easily see that happening. But as of right now, yeah, Monster Hunter Rise is in the conversation of Game of the Year.
Yeah, for sure.
30 years? Maybe not.
Awesome. Good question, Flightsy. I'm going to think about that one.
All I know is I look forward to debating with Dan in a Game of the Year 30 in the year 2046 about Star Fox Zero.
All right. Maybe I'll like it by then. When I play it my 5th time, I'll be like, oh, I get it now. Galaxy Wolf says, finally, I have a question. Oh, he said finally because this was part of his original post. He said, I have a question. Is there anything you discovered about yourself this year that you hadn't thought about before? Something I discovered about myself. Well, in terms of gaming, I discovered that so I played Super Metroid for the first time, and that has solidified Metroid as like one of my very, very top favorite franchises for sure. So in terms of gaming, that's new for me this year. What about you guys?
I discovered I'm a Monster Hunter fan.
Yep. That'll do it.
I discovered Front Mission.
Right.
Oh, good.
That's
game.
a good one.
Yeah.
Good game. Very nice. Now, I didn't really have any huge epiphanous moments where, all of a sudden I realized that I've been living a lie this entire time. But
yeah. At 35, those happen farther and farther apart.
And when you get up a few years higher than that, even less so.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, like with COVID, we're kind of like in a new world almost. So, I don't know. Like, I guess I'm constantly on this discovery path with like the content creation thing with RetroLogic, like growing there, and because that's still a new thing. Like it started last year, so this is our first full year of doing that, and that's constantly evolving, and I'm growing with it. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question a little bit, Galaxy Wolf. $2 hero again.
Yay!
Who's that guy? Seth says,
still a jerk.
Question for the community. Favorite Christmas song, or do you hate Christmas?
Favorite Christmas song, as of right now, might actually be Text Me Merry Christmas from Kristen Bell and the a cappella group Straight No Chaser.
Awesome. Good choice. Sam, what about you?
I'm more of a old-timey guy, so I'd say like Hark the Herald. Okay. I like the carols. I don't really care for the pop music. It's not to the point where I'm like have to turn it off. I just kind of ignore it.
Okay, fair enough. I'm kind of with you on that. I kind of like both. Like they both have their place. But my favorite Christmas song of all time got to be Little Drummer Boy.
Okay.
Yeah, Little Drummer Boy for sure. What were you going to say, Eric?
I was going to say, don't say Mariah Carey. Don't say Mariah Carey.
No, absolutely not. I turned that off. No, Little Drummer Boy for sure. There's just so many ways to do that song, and I've heard it 1,000 different ways, and I love all of them. It's also just a very interesting song musically, so it really catches my attention. And it's just a cool story. They told a great story in that song, so I'm down for some Little Drummer Boy. Anytime.
I just have to add one more thing, though. Can we all just agree? Frosty the Snowman is not a Christmas song. It has nothing to do with Christmas. It's just a winter song.
I think by association, though, winter songs are Christmas songs because, like, chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
He was brought to life with Christmas magic.
Was it Christmas magic? I don't know.
Listen, then that means that like that Baby It's Cold Outside isn't a Christmas song too, because that.
Well, maybe it's not.
All right. Okay. Sam's getting very technical about what is and isn't a Christmas song. Well, it's okay. I'll allow it. finally, Fight Crab Fanatic coming at us with the last question of the Community Couch this year. And it's a doozy, guys. Get ready for this. My question, which tycoon game fits your personality?
Dino Park.
Well, let me say the options here. He says A, Prison Tycoon, B, Pancake Bar Tycoon, C, Railroad Tycoon, or D, Zoo Tycoon. This is a good swath of tycoon games. This is a thinker.
Zoo Tycoon.
Why Zoo Tycoon?
I'm just a caged animal.
Okay, all right. Yeah, sure. That's okay.
I'm just absorbing that statement really quickly. We're just going to let that hang in the air for just a second.
Despite all his rage, he's still just a rat in a cage, Sam.
No, mole in a cage.
Mole in a cage. There it is. Yeah. Somebody do a cover, please. What about you, Eric? What do you? Prison, pancake, bar, railroad, or zoo? I guess
Sam. You're not going to give me.
Sam,
you're not going to give me Dino Park.
That would make you both prison and zoo tycoon.
Yeah. I guess. Sure.
Can I
no, it's just a prison for animals, really.
Yeah, right. Yeah, kind of.
Can I have a pancake bar at the prison?
No. No. Well, pancake bar is your spirit animal for?
No, I'm gonna go prison.
Prison? Really? Why? Why prison tycoon?
Because I can't have Dino Park, and that's kind of based on Sam's logic of zoos are just prisons for animals. You know, I'm trying to come up with the most closely Dino Park adjacent of that, and I was close to picking Pancake Bar because I really feel there's a lot of connective tissue between pancakes and Tyrannosauri. Mm-hmm. That's the plural of Tyrannosaurus, correct?
I'm gonna go Pancake Bar for this because I feel like it mostly matches my personality. You know, like high energy, lots going on. I love sugar. You know, just there's always something new happening at the Pancake Bar. They got some new stuff going on. I think I'm just a pancake bar on the inside. You know, that's me. You know, I'm sweet.
Just a
sweet
pancake bar on the inside.
That's it. Yeah. So
that's
20.
That's what you've discovered about yourself.
We're gonna round out 2021 with you know, Sam is a zoo, Eric is a prison, and I'm a pancake bar. So welcome to RetroLogic. Oh gosh. All right. So before we actually round things out, I just want to remind everyone to go check out the All N Nintendo podcast. We're going to spell it for you because sometimes people are like, what is it? ALL space N, the letter N.
Yes.
If you search for that, you'll get all the All N stuff.
This Saturday we have our Christmas episode coming up, and then the following Saturday we have our Game of the Year for 2021. Yeah. Yes,
not for 91.
No, not for 91. So this coming Saturday, our Christmas episode is coming up. Again, our indie showcase for that episode, as I announced a little earlier, is going to be Cthulhu Saves Christmas. So definitely make sure to check that out this coming Saturday, and then check out our comprehensive industry-defining Nintendo games of the year the following week.
Awesome. Good deal. Sam, you want to say anything to the listeners last year? You want to give a speech or something, or?
I did not prepare anything.
You could just say Biodama, and that we'll just
yeah. Plock will return in 2022.
I don't know what are we gonna do for Plocktober next year? We blew it out of the water. I don't know what we're gonna do.
I don't know.
We gotta come up with something.
I was close to running out of memes there.
Do like a GDQ thing.
I put one out every day.
I might have to do like Plock the live action movie or something. Like write a script.
Do it. Have you ever seen the Splosion Man endings?
No, I don't know. What is that?
Splosion Man is this 2D platformer, but they for the endings, it's completely bonkers game. But for the endings, they actually do this live action people in low rent costumes of the characters. and it's absolutely bonkers. It's actually worth a YouTube, but yeah, sure. Just make up a low rent Plock costume and have him go around and Plock his hands all over on everybody. And
All
Plock,
right.
I don't know. Whatever Plock does.
I'll write a dark, gritty Plock script, and we'll see if we can get it shot. That's
the Plock Knight Rises.
That's right. We look forward to that in 2022, everyone. Well, for the last time in 2021, thanks for listening to the RetroLogic podcast. We're proudly part of the Nintendo Dads family of podcasts. If you like what you hear, check me out on Twitter at RetroLogic Games. You're also welcome to jump into our friendly and 100% non-toxic Discord community. The link to that is in my Twitter bio and on our website, retrologic.games, where you can also get some pretty cool merch. I think it's pretty cool. You can check out the game store. You can check out Sam's blog. And all the links to everything is there. So go check it out. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Whatever it is that you do, go do it. And we will see y'all next year.
And we will see you over at All In.
Goodbye.
Say Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, RetroLogic.
See you. See you. See you next year. See you next year. And the year after that. Well, Olivia, can you tell them a joke? Yeah.
What's your joke?
I wish I can't go potty.
What? Why?
because you don't have a butt.
Okay, I guess we're not doing P logic then.